gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It's a frantic Friday. It is Friday, May 17th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, my son, also investigator, Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased, uncensored news, analysis, and information that you need to know in these perilous times. You're listening to the only show where the news is presented to you in 3D, three-dimensional format. Gives you the ability to look beyond the headlines, the bylines, the white noise, and look directly at what is important. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time for the new listeners, and we're picking up new listeners all of the time. Want to say hello to new listeners in this fantastic, wonderful state of Wyoming, as well as the wonderful state of Montana. Heard from people, actually, in South America, and not sure what that was. Might be sound effects there, but we also heard from people in Europe, and want to welcome you to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, and thanks for joining us. Folks, if you're having any type of difficulty whatsoever on our main platform, that is BTR, go to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.com. That's the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.com, and there you will have very clean, crisp, clear audio. Joe, it's great to be in studio. I was out all day today from I was just out. It was sorry, but I had to be out. What's up?
Yeah, but we didn't have a lot of in-studio time together, but I want to talk about a situation of anger. Now, we had a front door at the studio here. And no, I'm kidding. My dad shattered a glass screen door, and luckily he didn't get cut. But it was clumsiness.
It was not out of anger. Believe me, it was just one of those things. You know, did you ever do something? It's just one of those things. I'm just going to leave it at that. But I did not know. I really didn't know that tempered glass could break in so many tiny, itsy bitsy pieces.
And ladies and gentlemen, I want to make this announcement. This is from BTR. If people having issues coming into the chat room, you can try to update your Flash player at adobe.com, and you can contact BTR. They said that they need listeners to let them know so they can help you get into the chat room.
Oh, take them up on that.
Yeah,
they're good people. I mean, look, they're
they'll
good
help
people.
you out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because we've got a lot of news to get into tonight, and Joe has uploaded some fantastic audio. We've seen a lot of information, and I was just right before the show aired. I mean, I walked into the studio. I got a phone call. I mean, it's been like
before the show, you get the countdown. Your show will go live in 5 minutes. 1 minute till showtime. And he walks in and it's like 2 minutes till showtime. Sits down, talks on the phone, basically until your show will go live in 5 seconds. Yeah.
Well, that's enough time. But I keep getting emails, folks, about what transpired supposedly with respect to Benghazi. You know, folks, you and I have talked about this many times.
Are you referring to the claims about what the real intent of the
of Benghazi was, where
Correct.
Right. I keep getting emails from people who are saying, well, look at this angle, look at this angle. Supposedly the story is going to break where this was a kidnapping attempt gone awry, where Obama was going to look like the hero.
No.
And was going to be a trade for the blind sheikh, otherwise known as Abdul Rahman from the 93 World Trade Center bombing. But
you've done a lot of work on Benghazi, obviously. You have written 30 plus great articles and broken this down and had sources from the government and agencies give you information on this, and it's through your writing and their information that you've been able to compile these articles and information for people, breaking down what has happened in Benghazi as the way these people inside the government see it. And I don't know what to the contrary, the other claims, where they're coming from, if they're true or not. I don't talk to the contacts the way you do. I don't talk to them about these issues. All I can read or know about Benghazi, as far as you're concerned, and the information you were getting, is what you write in your articles. And
that's because I duct tape you to the office chair and make you listen.
So when you say these claims are that are coming out about the potential or possible kidnapping gone wrong being a bogus story, it's not something that I have looked into. But
I personally,
I'll take your word for it and your sources' word for it.
Look, my source has given so much information, and I got to tell you this.
I was joking.
Well,
you should have stopped me.
No, I got
anybody's word for it. But anyway.
Well, no, actually, you've in the end, if you without documentation, without proof, without authenticated evidence, you've got to look at the preponderance of evidence, and the preponderance of evidence certainly shows, at least in my view, that this elaborate kidnapping hoax. Folks, do you realize what it would take? Do you realize that the number of do you realize how many possible potential ways that something like that could go wrong in so many ways? Look, isn't it enough? Seriously, isn't it enough that we're breaking all international laws and treaties signed and yet to be signed at the time, and shipping arms from Libya, a country that we essentially helped overturn, to Syria to fight to topple Assad? I mean, that's not enough. We've got to get into this kidnapping scenario. People keep asking me for my opinion. You know what? Are you serious? My source says, but the infighting is not good for the overall cause. We've got to get to the truth. If you have information, and if that's what your belief is, let's get the documentation. Let's get the paperwork. Let's see what's what. But I will tell you this, that I don't subscribe to that theory. I do know where that comes from, based on what my source says, and a lot of things I say is I kid around with my source. You never saw his lips move, when I talk. I'll just say that I don't believe this to be the case at all. I don't have I'm not putting any stock into this whatsoever. So it's all about guns. It's all about money, and it's all about nation building. It's all about the power behind the power. So
there's an article from the New American today talking about, amid political posturing, real Benghazi scandals ignored, and numerous Benghazi-related scandals, and even talk of impeachment, swirl around the Obama administration with increased ferocity, fiddling with talking points, deliberate lies, failing to defend U.S. personnel, and more. Analysts and lawmakers say the real issue in Benghazi that should have the American people outraged are largely being kept out of the discussion. Questions about U.S. government gun running to radical Islamists from Libya to Syria, for example, or the wisdom and constitutionality of overthrowing foreign governments have yet to be seriously addressed by the White House or Congress. And they are right on the money.
Yeah, that's very true. When people talk about security, Do you think for a moment, I mean, that the security issue is kind of a red herring too, because you're talking about what they're calling a mission, which was a mission in Benghazi. All right, let's use their word mission, when in fact it was a CIA operations center. It was a villa. No, a couple of buildings, if you will. The main building being a villa. There was no American flag flying over this villa or mission or whatever you choose to call it. There was no assistance being provided in there for passports as they do in embassies or consulates. So, do you think for a moment that when they refer to security, they're referring to security for this particular mission or this villa? No, they're not doing that. Do you think that they want to attract attention to this place? Of course not. They're trying to hide it. And by the way, the entire mission was wrapping up. So the even the issue of security, although correct, it's not directed or not directed where it's supposed to be. The security part was to the embassies, to the legitimate embassies. This was not a legitimate embassy. This was a consulate, folks. I know that the people that have heard this show constantly listen to this show, you know where I'm coming from. The new people, please understand this. This was a gun-running operation, a weapons smuggling operation. This was a government overthrowing operation that Obama and Valerie Jarrett and Hillary Clinton were heavily, deeply up to their necks involved in. And you, Joe, came across some great information about Hillary Clinton's body person, Huma Abedin. Of course, Huma Abedin is married to
Anthony Weiner.
Anthony
And
Weiner.
before you get going on that story,
I'm not beginning. I just want to tell people he did a great job in getting some stuff. But just take it where you want.
No, I was just going to continue to say this as new listeners continue to come in. If you cannot access the chat, please send BTR an email or there's a forum page. You can let them know that the chat is not working, because I know last night a lot of people had problems and issues getting into the chat room. It is open for some reason, but I can tell by the numbers that the normal amount of people are not in there, or even near an average of the normal amount of people. So contact BTR. Also, they said to go to www.adobe.com and update your Flash
player
if it needs updating. And hopefully this issue will be resolved tonight.
By the way,
we'll figure out what's wrong with this. But in the headlines, go ahead before we hit the headlines.
Yeah, you should always update your Adobe Flash Player for security reasons. That's something very Adobe Flash Player. It has some critical. It's critical that you keep that updated. That's Adobe Flash Player. Please keep that updated on your computers or your PDAs or whatever you've got. PDAs, iPads, iPods, iPads. Make sure you have Adobe Flash updated. Very critical security vulnerabilities if you don't. So, just want to say that. So yeah, in the news, what do we got going here, Joe? We got a lot going actually.
Yes, we do. We have 76 killed in and outside Baghdad in a string of bombings. We're going to be talking a little bit about that in the show, and the increased violence in Iraq leading towards a civil war there. Also, the title of the show, Military Power Grab. We have a defense official. There was a hearing today. Yep. This hearing was... I'm sorry, it loses me now. But what they were doing was, it was a committee on the Senate Arms Committee, and as a senior Pentagon official told the Senate committee Thursday that the U.S. would be at war with Al Qaeda for 15 to 20 years, and the military could target terrorists anywhere under a law passed after the September 11th attacks. Now, the law that was passed was the I have it right here, and excuse me for my tardy. Okay, the War Powers under 2001 law, the War Powers Act under 2001, and I have an audio, a 7-minute audio of the committee hearing, and you will hear in here a lot of people talking. One John McCain, one Lindsey Graham. But in this hearing, you'll also hear from the people answering the questions. These people from the Pentagon's top lawyers. One, a Mr. Michael Sheenan, an assistant secretary of Defense in charge of special operations, said America's battle with terrorist groups spanned the globe from Boston to the FATA, meaning Pakistan's tribal areas. He did not explain why he believes the effort could last another generation. And we have articles and statements from many people on this issue in a few different articles I've compiled. But some say the military power grab goes into effect. Pentagon unilaterally grants itself authority over civil disturbances. The manhunt for the Boston bombing suspects offered the nation a window into the military-style capabilities of our local law enforcement agencies. For the past 30 years, departments throughout the United States have benefited with the government's largesse in form of military weaponry and training incentives offered in the ongoing war on drugs. And we're seeing this increasing amount of police consolidation, local law enforcement agencies merging into militarized police forces nationwide. Towns and cities are jumping on the consolidating bandwagon. According to the latest data, there are about 18,000 state and local law enforcement agencies in the U.S. Of those, more than 150 have undergone some level of consolidation. Those pushing for the consolidation of police forces or regional or metropolitan agencies typically cite budget shortfalls as in the best reason for closing down local forces and combining resources to form a consolidated force. Now, what do these consolidated forces what makes up these consolidated forces? It goes on to say that they have an example of Louisville, Kentucky. They made a referendum in 2000. The city administrators began signing the cost savings of the merger of the police and sheriff with number of patrol divisions. And to make a long story short about St. Louis, the impact on the economy did not, that they thought it was going to take, did not happen. And the crime that they thought would be lowered did not, in fact, that was not the case. But what we are seeing is a law enforcement being used as a business. It is, money is being put underneath or as a more important, something more important than people's safety, and we are seeing a unified, and this word is important. You can go look up unified, the U.S. unified force, the unified agenda, the unified, pick a word that has to do with the government. I guarantee you'll find a PDF document on that. Unified quest. There are many projects in the works that, under the consolidation of the Department of Homeland Security, they are putting the police together. And there's one that many people have probably heard of before, the public-private partnership.
Well, what they're doing is, as you mentioned, and I just want to make this clear, if anyone watching what happened in Boston, could you tell whether you were seeing police officers in military gear or military officials walking down the street? And I certainly couldn't. All in. Now, we also mentioned too about the war on drugs and how this all fits in the larger agenda of things. Let me just tell you a few things about the war on drugs, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, to put this in perspective, because I think this is so important. You've really got to understand what's going on here. Our criminal justice system is broken. We've got the highest rate of incarceration on the planet. And I'm talking about, we got more people in prison than Rwanda and Russia. The mass incarceration of African Americans is at epidemic levels. And here's the reason why. back in the 1970s, there were about 350,000 prisoners in the U.S. You know what they are today, folks? Now think about this. In the 70s, 350,000 behind bars. How many do you think there are today? About 2.2 million. The rise is attributed almost exclusively to the increase in nonviolent drug possession charges under the name War on Drugs. Now, consider this. 500,000 Americans are behind bars on any given night in jails. Okay, not prison, but jails, for drug law violations. And that's increased to tenfold since 1980. The number of people arrested in 2011 in the U.S. on nonviolent charges, 1.53 million. Number of students who have lost federal financial and aid eligibility because of drug convictions, about 250,000. In the year 2010, almost half of all drug offenders, we're talking 48%, almost 49%, were convicted of an offense carrying a 10-year mandatory minimum. Think about that. The U.S. has 5% of the world's population, yet 25% of the world's incarcerated population. And oh, by the way, if you think it's a good idea to, if you think that, it's a harmless crime, consider this: every year 70,000 prisoners are raped inside jails. 45% of Americans under correctional supervision for drug-related offenses are black people. Don't tell me. Don't even bring up race. Don't bring up the race issue in terms of, us being racist. These are the facts. I just wanted to let you know that, because this is part of what this is a big part of what you're saying, as you said, Joe. I mean, this unification, this umbrella has a lot to do with
seriously,
the war on drugs.
Search Unified Quest, Unified Agenda, those terms. You will find government PDFs laying out how they want to do this, but we're going to play some sound bites, or a sound bite. It's a 7-minute clip. This is about the unilateral power grab by the Pentagon. A senior Pentagon official told the Senate committee Thursday that the U.S. would be at war with al-Qaeda for more than 15 to 20 years. That we talked about yesterday. It goes on to say the expansive view drew sharp criticism from some senators who questioned how a 2001 law that authorized use of force against the organizers of that year's September 11 attacks is now used to authorize drone strikes against militants in Somalia and Yemen and other places who played no role in those events. This is the most astounding and the most astoundingly disturbing hearing that I've been to since I've been here, one senator said. That was Angus King of Maine, who caucuses with Democrats. You guys have essentially rewritten the Constitution here today. John McCain, a prominent supporter of the Pentagon, called for the updating of the law to authorize drone strikes and other military operation against a new generation of extremist groups, including those with only tenuous ties to the al-Qaeda network. The current law authorizes the president to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001, or harbored such organizations or persons in order to prevent any future attacks of international terrorism against the U.S. by such nations, organizations, or persons. Now, if you're confused about that sentence, as I am, basically,
I get it, but
we have no constitution. The executive orders and emergency power acts that are in effect are the law of the land. And here's the audio bite of the clip. Obama war powers under 2001 law. Astoundingly disturbing, says Senator. And this clip is of a Senate committee hearing. So you're going to hear a few just couple second breaks of sound, but listen close because it's very important.
Mr. Taylor, in your legal opinion, Could the 2001 AUMF be read to authorize lethal force against al-Qaeda's associated forces in additional countries where they're now present, such as Mali, Libya, and Syria?
As I indicated, we must comply with domestic law.
I think it's a pretty straightforward question, Mr. Taylor. On
the domestic law side, yes, sir.
Does the President have that authority to put boots on the ground in Yemen?
Under domestic authority, he would have that authority.
I hope the Congress is okay with that. I'm okay with that. Does he have authority to put boots on the ground in the Congo?
Yes, sir, he does.
Okay. Do you agree with me that when it comes to international terrorism, we're talking about a worldwide struggle?
Absolutely, sir.
Would you agree with me the battlefield is wherever the enemy chooses to make it?
Yes, sir, from Boston to the Fatah.
I couldn't agree with you more. Do you agree with that, General?
Yes, sir, I agree that the enemy decides where the battlefield is.
And it could be any place on the planet, and we have to be aware and able to act. And do you have the ability to act, and you aware of the threats?
Yes, sir. We do have the ability to react, and we are tracking the threats globally.
From my point of view, I think your analysis is correct, and I appreciate all of your service to our country.
Would you call the al-Nusra Front in Syria an AQ-affiliated terrorist group?
It's very unusual that we get.
Yes, sir, I would.
Would we have the ability to act against al-Nusra today under the AUMF?
Yes, sir. We'd have the ability to act against al-Nusra if we felt they were threatening our security. We would have the authority to do that today.
If a terrorist group is AQ-affiliated, does that inherently mean that they are threatening the United States?
Yes, sir, although it's a bit murky, I hate to say, because there are groups that have openly professed their affiliations with al-Qaeda, yet in fact, as a government, we haven't completely grappled with that as of now.
So we can expect drone strikes into Syria if we find al-Qaeda there?
You know, I hate to speculate on a hypothetical, but yes, sir, we are authorized to attack those who have chosen to associate with that organization.
We have killed people that their association or direct association with al-Qaeda is tenuous. In fact, there's one story that we killed somebody in return for the Pakistanis to kill somebody.
The al-Qaeda that attacked us on September 11, 2001 was an al-Qaeda that previously attacked us from East Africa, from Yemen.
Yes, but that's not what the authorization states, Mr. Secretary. That is not what the authorization states, though. I know of all those things, but the fact is that this authority, which I just read to you, has grown way out of proportions and is no longer applicable to the conditions that prevail that motivated the United States Congress to pass the authorization for the use of military force that we did in 2001. Basically, you've got carte blanche as to what you are doing throughout the world.
I gather it to be your legal position that individuals who were not born by 9/11/2001, if they become associated with a group that associates with al-Qaeda, it is your position that the AUMF would cover them and those organizations. Those, as the President said, different affiliates and extremist groups have emerged.
As long as they become an associated force under the legal standard that was set out.
Has that particular legal rationale that individual groups who had nothing to do with 9/11 are nevertheless covered by the AUMF, has that legal rationale been subject to litigation and decisions by American courts?
In the context of detention, I believe the answer is yes.
Does the AUMF expire by presidential declaration, congressional action, or the occurrence of an actual event in the world?
there is it is a statute. We have not determined that the conflict has come to an end. Precisely how that would be written and established is unclear.
This is the most astounding and most astoundingly disturbing hearing that I've been to since I've been here. You guys have essentially rewritten the Constitution here today. The Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11, clearly says that the Congress has the power to declare war. This authorization, the AUMF, is very limited. And you keep using the term associated forces. You use it 13 times in your statement. That is not in the AUMF. You're reading it to cover everything and anything.
But let me talk to you take a brief statement about Al-Qaeda and the organization that attacked us on September 11, 2001. To attack that organization, we have to attack it with those affiliates that are its operational arm that have previously attacked and killed Americans and a high-level interest and continue to try to do that.
That's fine, but that's not what the AUMF says.
Highly important that we stress to the administration that commencing hostilities that put American troops or materiel in harm's way in Syria without fresh congressional discussion and approval, utilizing the 2001 document, would be enormously controversial. The testimony that I hear today suggests that the administration believes that they would have the authority to do that. But I don't want us to walk out of the room with leaving an impression that members of Congress also share the understanding that that would be acceptable. I just don't want to walk out of this room with any doubt that at least this senator would expect under the Constitution that an administration would come back to Congress and have that discussion and not use this AUMF to justify commencement of hostilities in that theater or others.
All right, there was the 7-minute clip, and highlights from that clip, as I stated some of them before. You have pretty much rewritten the Constitution, one gentleman said. Also, this is the most astounding and most astoundingly disturbing hearing that I've been to since I've been here. You guys have essentially rewritten the Constitution. That from Senator Angus King. As we continue here to talk about this expansive new role that the government wants to publicly come out and claim authority to have the ability to come after any type of associated force. Also included in that are belligerents. I'm not sure if you heard of the Enemy Belligerent Act, written by John McCain. I'm not sure if that was signed into law. I think there was something similar that was signed into law. But belligerence basically is an attitude. You have some sort of hostile attitude towards something. And it doesn't necessarily mean an action. Any its parent, definition.
Look, any parent of a teenager can certainly define belligerence, whether past or present teenager. Seriously, and I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek. Yeah. But I got to tell you something. You described to me, or not describe, but how does it make you feel that your attitude, your personal position on things can label you as an enemy combatant?
It's very difficult for people to comprehend that, and I'm saying this as people who are awake and informed, to comprehend what it means to be considered an enemy of the United States government. We see through the IRS what we just happened with the targeting of conservatives, of Tea Partiers, those opposed to government. And we have some new revelations as the former head of the IRS made some statements today. The IRS commissioner said it's absolutely not illegal for the IRS to target conservatives. I guess we'll go to that clip now. I'm going to play 2 clips in a row from the head of the IRS.
Well, this is
former head.
folks. This is all related, so let's go. Yeah, do it now.
Yeah.
Can't,
Be unnecessary?
I think so.
Isn't that how you described the questions and the information that the IRS folks were gaining through the criteria list unnecessary?
I think if are you talking about the letters?
I'm saying that there is a parallel here in the expansive nature of what the IRS has done. Would you care to recharacterize the unnecessary word? Is it illegal what they have done?
It is absolutely not illegal.
It's not illegal what the IRS has done.
Here, so let me understand the question. What is your statement as to what is illegal?
Do you believe it is illegal for employees of the IRS to create lists to target individual groups and citizens in this country?
I think the Treasury Inspector General indicated that it might not be, but others will be able to tell that.
What do you believe?
I don't believe it is.
There you have it. The IRS commissioner does not believe it is illegal to target specific groups, but this is the IRS commissioner on, if he remembers, who is responsible for the scandal that has come out of the IRS. You're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're definitely going to circle compile all of this together to show you how it's all related to what's going on.
Yeah, here is the IRS commissioner on who is responsible for the scandal.
You're not going to cooperate with me, Mr. Miller, and you've been uncooperative during this hearing. Mr. Jors, we've heard that an early draft of your report indicates that you were unable to determine who initially directed the IRS employees to target groups based on their political beliefs. Is that true?
That we were unable to, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Miller, you're the commissioner. Who is responsible? You conducted the investigation. Who was responsible?
I don't have that name, sir. I tell you.
Why don't you have the
name? That I was originally.
Have you asked anybody?
Yes, I asked.
Who did you ask?
I asked.
I don't have that name either.
I'll be glad to provide those names.
Let him answer the question.
Mr. Levin, it's my time.
Washington State's time.
Who did you ask?
I asked the senior technical advisor.
And what's the senior technical advisor's name?
Nancy Marks.
And what did Nancy tell you? Who's responsible?
That I don't remember, to be honest with you.
You don't remember again?
Does not
Time has
remember.
expired. The committee will...
Again, and this is just incompetence, gross incompetence, and it's
whoa. Yeah, no, it's not gross incompetence.
It is intentionally
it's
set
feigning.
up to look like incompetence.
Right, that's better. It's feigning incompetence. Yeah, I've gotten a couple of emails today saying, basically, hey, Doug, you wrote that article on CanadaFreePress.com and, of course, HomelandSecurityUS.com saying that this is a plan. For example, the use of the word wiretapping as opposed to another word which would be more applicable. Of course, they can deny wiretapping because wiretapping is active surveillance. You've got somebody on the other end of the phone or whatever device that might be communicating on and monitoring in real time what's taking place. That's wiretapping, folks. When you have records being pulled about, for example, telephone calls being made, the numbers that they're made from, the numbers that they're made to, the duration of the call, and other information. That's not wiretapping. That's securing records. That's an overreach in and of itself. But by asking, hey, did you wiretap these people? Of course not. They would say, no, of course we didn't. They're playing word games with you, folks. This is what's going on there. But with what you just heard from the IRS, this is hubris, and this is, it's even more than that. It's actually, I keep coming back to hubris, but they're playing with this. They're laughing at us.
Yeah. And we're going to go to two more clips here. We're going to get these clips out of the way in the first hour here. Financial fraud prosecutions are down despite Obama's promise to keep them up. We'll play that later. But first, we're going to go to Mark Levin's take on what he thinks of the IRS.
Oh, you got to hear this.
Yes, it's a talk show. And yes, I talk. And yes, I take callers. But I'm also the president of one of the great conservative legal foundations in this country that was founded in 1976, the Landmark Legal Foundation. And Landmark has been on this issue of IRS abuse now since the 1990s. And, of course, we helped expose what's going on today. People were beating their chests on Capitol Hill, and there were articles, but people came to us. They needed help. We could see what was going on. We could see that this was an agency completely out of control. We have fought with this agency before. We litigated against them for 3 years when they were conducting political audits during the Clinton administration. At that time, members of Congress, and I might say of both parties, were urging and instigating the IRS to investigate groups and people they didn't like, and the IRS was responding. And I want to talk to you about that a little bit later on, after the President speaks, because, yes, we're going to cover the ins and outs of this, and we'll come in and out of the weeds. But, folks, it's time to kill the IRS. That's the bottom line. This agency has been corrupt since its founding. And the bigger the government gets, the more corrupt it gets, the more ubiquitous it gets. And I don't just mean flat-out political partisanship and cronyism. I mean its abuses. We must fight the expansion of the IRS under Obamacare. We must fight to kill the IRS or critically wound it politically, with either a flat tax or a fair tax. Now is the time to advance a liberty agenda. Now is a time to advance a constitutional agenda. Let me be as clear as I know how. Congress didn't break this. The media didn't break this. The Tea Party broke this. Landmark Legal Foundation broke this. Our buddy Jay Sekulow helped break this. This was done by we the people. And finally it got so bad and it became so obvious that they had to look at it. And now you can see everybody running around on Capitol Hill. That's good. I'm glad they're running around, and let's hope they don't trip over each other. But I saw this back during the Clinton administration. The IRS abuses groups and abuses people. That's what it does. Now, who created the IRS? Congress. Who does the IRS work for? The president. It's too big, it's too powerful, and it's getting bigger and more powerful. If this scandal proves anything, it's that we must politically, legally kill the IRS. And we can do that in a way that promotes a proper, healthy policy for a republic. And I'm not going to get into a fight over the flat tax or the fair tax, but that's the way to go. People are imperfect. People in power are imperfect, whether they are politicians or bureaucrats. And I'm not casting aspersions on all politicians and bureaucrats. I am saying that people are imperfect in all walks of life. The problem is the IRS has the power of life or death over business, over individuals, when it comes to your ability to earn a living and to keep your wealth. This is just the latest chapter in the politicization of the IRS. Just the latest chapter of many chapters in a very thick book. So we constitutionalists, we conservatives, yes, we should demand, and I have been demanding, that Congress do its Article I job, that there's separation of powers, that they have the responsibility for oversight and to investigate. But there's a problem with this agency. And Congress has created it. And Congress needs to fix it. What are we going to do once we, quote unquote, find the people responsible for this? What are we going to do once we, quote unquote, put some people in jail? Is that the end of it? No, folks, that's what they want to be the end of it. It cannot be the end of it. The Internal Revenue Service is too powerful, and it's getting more and more powerful. It's too big, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And this Obamacare, as I've told you many, many times before, it's not about health care alone, although it covers that for sure. It's about what kind of a republic we want, if we want a republic at all. It's about whether we, the people, as individuals, have our own sovereignty, have unalienable rights. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. This scandal is, yes, a scandal about targeting the Tea Party and conservative groups. And by the way, 15 years ago, same thing, conservatives mostly. But this is about an agency that needs to be dealt with in a fundamental way. That's when we'll know these members of Congress are serious. Congress should, listen to me, Congress should not fund any aspect of the IRS that is supposed to deal with Obamacare. None! Not a penny! Let's see what John Boehner does about that. I know Harry Reid doesn't give a damn. He wants a big bloated IRS with tentacles all over the place. Just keep in mind, the left has a totalitarian mindset, and I'm very serious about it.
Tired of losing your eBay auctions to the highest bidder? Auto bid them now!
All right, I don't know what the weird audio was at the end of that clip, but I think Mark Levin said it best the first time. Not a flat tax, not a just kill the IRS, get rid of it. IRS is going to be implementing Obamacare. It already is the implementation arm of the extortion fee we pay to be an American, have a job, etc. The IRS actually legally only has the power to tax corporations' profits, but they have jumbled up the court systems and the law, and that's why sovereign citizens are such a threat to the government, because they understand, for the most part, what papers you need to file the tax system and how it works and how to get around it, because we are not corporations, even though the government tries to say we are corporations. Moving along into other stories here. You're muted. Okay. Well, with the IRS, it is basically how the U.S. pays their duties to, look at it as the mafia. What we are seeing is the IRS agents are, the street soldiers. They would go out and collect the money that you owe for your being alive, and sometimes for rain, and sometimes for not having health care, or for doing stuff or not doing stuff, depending on the situation. And that is collected. The United States takes a small fee, and then they pass this fee to the World Bank, and they pass a fee to the UN and the royal people and the elites. And this is how the wealth has been transferred from the wealthiest nation in the world and turned it into a third world nation.
I just want to bring up something here. A good friend of mine is a friend of a gentleman by the name of Irwin Schiff. Folks, if you don't know who Irwin Schiff is, and again, all of this, whether it is things taking place today from the military-industrial side of things, or we're talking about the IRS, or we're talking about the overreach by the Justice Department in the Capitol, it's all relates back to one common theme. But I just want to bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who Irwin Schiff is, I had again, my friend, a good friend of mine, is friends with Irwin Schiff. He's an older gentleman, I believe is in his 80s, fighting the IRS for well over 30 years.
Somebody asked in the chat if it was Peter Schiff's father.
Yes.
Okay.
Irwin Schiff, now, just to be clear on that too, okay, sometimes fathers and sons don't agree on everything, right, Joe?
But I can speak to that.
But in this case, Irwin Schiff's son is playing a specific role and playing a specific zone or doing things. It does not involve his father, okay, because he's got a very important job, or Peter Schiff's got a job to do. But Irwin Schiff is really a political prisoner. And it really angered me, or it really upset me to hear a Christian debt counselor, Dave Ramsey, classify or describe Irwin Schiff as a nutcase and Peter Schiff as a nutcase. They did this, or he did this. As far as I'm concerned, Dave Ramsey is dead wrong. He doesn't understand the system. Now, there's a lot of issues there, but Irwin Schiff was essentially sentenced to a life sentence in prison for he was found guilty of tax law violations.
Well, yet we see Tim Geithner, who doesn't pay his taxes.
TurboTax Timmy, right.
And I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
No, that's fine, because it fits in here.
The head of the Treasury Department, who's been delinquent on his taxes, and if he was a regular citizen, he probably would be facing some kind of, I don't want to say jail time. Maybe if he was a conservative, he'd be facing jail time. But if he was just a regular, citizen, he'd be looking at some steep penalties and high interest rates to pay back the money he owes. Because if you owe the IRS $1 and you don't pay it, 10 years later that dollar will be 10,000, because that's the way they work.
And I got to tell you, I was audited one time by the IRS, and somebody had sent me an email today asking me if I was subjected, or if our organization was subjected to any type of audits, IRS audits. My reply to that person, well, I haven't replied yet, but my reply will be not yet. We fully expect to be. But back in 2005, Irwin Schiff was sentenced to jail. Irwin Schiff is a longtime author, a lecturer on income tax. He and his co-defendants were found guilty in 2005, October 26, 2005 to be exact, on a number of counts of income tax violations, violating the income tax code, not laws, but code. Why? Well, very simply, Irwin was not allowed to talk about the laws creating an income tax liability or lack thereof. You see, folks, there is no law, even though you might think there is. There are codes which are different than laws, and we can argue that. I know there are some people would call up and say, oh, no, they're the same. No, they're not.
Yeah, and I just want to say for the record again, I said it the other night and I'll say it again, I quit the IRS. I am no longer filing taxes. I'm not going to comply. If you want to come audit me, you're going to have a pretty hard time. I'm sick and tired of it. I had my first and only tax return that I received money back instead of paying the first time in years and years and years hijacked from me.
Actually,
so they're done.
It was your wife primarily. That if anyone,
it was her money more than me.
Money. Oh yeah. You see how this works in Joe's real case. Okay, Joe gets married, and his wife has the maximum amount of taxes taken out of her paycheck, and they got married, and her right of return, or her return, was offset by his student loan liability. Now, without respect to the morality of the paying back, or without respect to that, isn't it interesting how they can reach in jointly and take a joint marital property? That is to say, the income tax money that would really, more or less, I mean, she paid that money and take it on his behalf. But back to Irwin Schiff. Irwin Schiff has his situation is he's going to be spending the rest of his life in prison. He is America's foremost political prisoner. I've got to tell you, this is unbelievable. And the entire situation with Irwin Schiff is when he was fighting for his freedom in a Las Vegas courtroom, the judge of that trial told Irwin Schiff that the Constitution had no place in his courtroom. Think about that, folks. So think about what is taking place now with the IRS being the enforcement arm of Obamacare. When the IRS was formed back in the early 20th century, why was it formed? It was for consolidation purposes. It was for centralization of power, centralization of information, centralization of records. What's this Obamacare all about? Is it about upgrading your health care? No. No, it's a centralization of power into the seat of the federal government. Folks, this is what we're talking about. And you've got this separation of powers that's essentially non-existent when you take a look at the Attorney General refusing to go after various illegalities. I was going to say indiscretions, but that's not true. Illegalities. Look at what's taking place. You've got voter fraud. You've got any number of federal issues, any number of issues that involve the legislative branch as well as the executive branch, and you've got the judicial branch saying no, we're not going to go after them. So it's all about the centralization factor here. You think it's bad in May 2013? Wait until May 2014. Just wait.
Obamacare insurance premiums on people who don't need Obamacare, who already have their own private insurance, are looking at a 100 to 400% increase in prices.
You know what? Here's what I think. I think any member of Congress, you should be subjected to Obamacare. You should be forced, compelled to pay, to enroll, to be part of the Affordable Health Care Act. Whatever station in life you are, you must. You must.
No, they got the waivers.
No.
No.
No
Not just them. Walmart, all the big banks, all these companies, these fascist government organizations, they get waivers. They're not subjected to the same tax rates or even taxes as we are. How much, what was the number I saw? Some ridiculous, JP Morgan made some multi-billion-dollar profit.
It was GE. For the love of Pete, they made a gazillion dollars, and they got corporate a gazillion. Okay. And if you want to know how much that is,
I know. I saw
a gazillion. Actually, well, that's my number, but they actually got corporate welfare. They got money back. They didn't pay any taxes, but got money back.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, we see how things work. Everything is upside down. What's wrong is right. What's right is wrong. And now we're seeing the immigration reform. The Obama administration seeks to annihilate the U.S. job market by adding 11 million unemployed people. And that is the 11 million immigrant workers. Nearly half, 5.5, are working in the underground economy. But once the 11 million illegals get legal status, they will either take the remaining available jobs or displace up to 11 million legal U.S. citizens who are currently employed. This will create potentially 11 million more unemployed workers. The rationale is that the employers will replace or hire anyone willing to work for a substantially less paycheck than the average American. Another situation exists where full-time workers can be replaced by part-time workers which do not require benefits and insurance coverage. So you can hire two illegal aliens, one to work a 20-hour shift, the other to work a 20-hour shift, to replace you in your job, and they don't get the health care benefits, and they don't get whatever benefits come with your job, and they'll be paid less, and the companies love it. I mean, why don't they just let up the slave shops right here in the U.S. and bring the kids from China over that make the sneakers for, pennies? It is ridiculous what this one world government, one world order, satanic system is doing to this nation. It has stripped it of its freedom. It has stripped it of its wealth. It has stripped it of its morals, and it is going to put the death nail into the last of what's left. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We're up against the first hour break. We'll be right back after these short messages. Stay with us.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilena Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth Squad specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Folks, we ask you every day, what steps have you taken today to prepare? Do you have enough food to last for 90 days? Do you have enough stored water to last for 90 days? What about an emergency survival kit? Well, now we have a solution to these questions. Just call our friends at the American Survival Wholesale Network at 818-720-0759. That's 818-720-0759. Or you can go to their website at www.americansurvivalwholesale.com. Tell them Doug and Joe sent you and receive a full King James Bible in a waterproof case, free with every survival kit or purchases over $199. Don't procrastinate. They have products that work with any budget. Again, the website is the AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com. Also, you may email them at bugoutamerica@usa.com.
And folks, I've got something to say here. I just got an email from a Freeze Dry Guy. Have you visited Freeze Dry Guy, his website? If not, go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, click on the Freeze Dry Guy link. Let me find it. Okay, here, the sale. I got to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The food there, unlike what you might expect, the freeze-dried food is really, really good. Now, for me to say that, because my two favorite foods are pizza and cold pizza. But anyway, no, I do have. My wife says, "Boy, you're just a really picky eater." I am. But Freeze Dry Guys, please do offer some very high quality products at a fraction of the manufactured suggested retail price this month to Hagmann and Hagmann Report listeners. Mountain House freeze-dried eggs with butter flavor. You got to taste these, but you got to cook them right too. You got to put the boiling water in. I mean, you just have to follow the instructions. If you're like me and don't follow the instructions because you don't have patience or whatever. The only difference is the texture is a little bit funny, but honest, if you cook them properly, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to cook them properly, they're really, really good. But on sale right now, 1 case of egg mix with butter flavor, about 230 cups worth of servings. 1 case, $249. 3 cases, $700. Okay, it's incredible. The quantities are limited, and these are eggs that come from chickens that are not zapped and hormone injected and all that stuff. This is good stuff. This is long-term shelf life food. They all come in 6 heavy-duty double enameled number 10 cans per case. They'll outlive you, seriously. If stored properly, 30 years, or they'll outlive you. That's a freeze-dry guy. Mountain House freeze-dried eggs. It's a big special going on this month for listeners of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Go to our website, but you got to tell the freeze-dry guy, hey, Doug and Joe sent you. All right, good prices, good food. We promise.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Friday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Today is May 17th, 2013, and we are just moving along right here. I want to give a quick notice to those listening who are not able to enter chat. Please contact BTR. They are asking for people to contact them who can't get into chat, as there are problems. It looks like half the people or so, at least, are not in chat, and that was happening yesterday as well. Contact BTR. You can email them, call them, find their information down at the bottom of the pages, and just look around their website. You can submit a ticket. It's called a ticket, and I think these are for people who have login accounts, who log in. You can submit a ticket. And let them know the situation. And
just be advised. You don't have to. Participate in the chat to listen to the program. Just so you know. And we want to welcome second-hour listeners out of the West Coast. Welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Go ahead, Joe.
No, and you don't have to participate in chat to listen to the program. But a lot of people do like to participate in chat. We love the chat. The people in it. It's like a fellowship. And to get emails and see comments and get messages saying to people who listen all the time and who are always in there talking, giving good advice and making good conversation, can't get in. It's a little frustrating, but I know Blog Talk Radio is working on it. Moving along on the news, we will be taking calls in the third hour. But moving along on the news, the cashless society has arrived in Africa. The multi-purpose biometric national identification smart card. It was recently announced at the World Economic Forum in Cape Town, South Africa, that MasterCard and the Nigerian National Identity Management Commission under the government of Nigeria would form a partnership to distribute a new identity card for every Nigerian citizen. The purpose of this card is to have all Nigerian citizens participate in financial services sector under control of MasterCard, a multinational financial services corporation headquartered in New York. MasterCard's press release, MasterCard Power to Nigerian Identity Card Program, stated, As a part of the program, in its first phase, Nigerians 16 and older and all residents in the country for more than 2 years will get the new multi-purpose identity card, which has 13 applications, including MasterCard's prepaid payment technology that will provide cardholders with the safety, convenience, and reliability of electronic payments. This will have a significant and positive impact on the lives of Nigerians who have not previously had access to financial services. The program, also designed to move Nigeria into a cashless society, one that is dependent on financial institutions, Wall Street, and the Nigerian government. Isn't that interesting? That last sentence. I'll read this over again because make sure I read this right. The program is also designed to move Nigeria into a cashless society, one that is dependent on financial institutions, Wall Street, and the government. It will be managed by the financial elites of Wall Street, technocrats, and of course, Washington. All forms of financial transaction would be exchanged through plastic credit card and debit cards that would have implanted radio frequency identification chips, or RFID chips as they're known, inside them. A Mr. Michael Maybach, president of the Middle East and African division at MasterCard, supports the Nigerian government's decision for a new cashless society. Of course you support it. It's your company. Today's announcement is the first phase of an unprecedented project in terms of a scale and scope for Nigeria, said Mr. Maybach.
You know, it's good to see my son inheriting my frustration.
I didn't read that before the show.
You know, I've got some extra blood pressure medication here. Do you need it? That vein is popping out above your right eye.
It's okay. I got some.
Okay.
That news. If we can't take that news, some of the other ones we're going to get into.
Exactly.
I should quit.
We've got some chamomile tea here to before we go further, and I know we're on. We do have a structure here. We got some headlines. I want to slip something in here that has gone by the wayside, as people are not getting the full story on something. Obama, the IRS organization, the IRS under Obama. Through the, folks, you've got to understand how this works. The IRS demanded that several Tea Party organizations provided back-end access to their websites. Okay, now think about this for a moment. All right, we're talking about Tea Party groups, we're talking about conservative groups, constitutional groups, anybody that is antithetical toward the Obama ideology. Now, this happened to a number of constitutional groups, a number of conservative groups, and Christian groups. There are documents floating around that are pending authentication. But the documents state that they want access to everything the members of these groups had access to, up to and including any chat windows. For example, the chat windows like you might be participating in if you listen to this show. The contact information of all webmasters and all members of, for example, the chat groups or the contributors to the websites. Now, one organization raised less than $600 and was targeted in this respect. I just want to let people know right now, just to make a statement as the patriarch, if you will, of the Hagmann and Hagmann family, I would go to jail before I would release any information, release any access, release any emails, release any correspondence, release any names, release any knowledge of any person or persons I have that we've dealt with. There would be absolutely no way that we as an organization would release any piece of information, whether they said pretty please or whether they delivered a subpoena. It's not going to happen. And I can guarantee you that. Well, you missed the front end of this. No, this is about the IRS. This is the little known fact. You're hearing about the IRS harassing the Tea Party groups and constitutional and Christian groups about their status and getting the 501c3 status, what have you. What you're not hearing is the other part of the story, where some of these groups are being harassed by the IRS for backdoor internet access to their websites and or information about their chat rooms, the contributors to the websites, the people involved, the emails, and so on and so forth. You're not hearing about this.
I would love to see them come here and ask for information like that.
Well, so this story is by orders of magnitude going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Obama cannot possibly continue to claim ignorance about this. There will be blowback on this. And let me just say this to the new people joining us and also to the people that we have listening right now. Let me just say this. This and other scandals are making this administration or this regime desperate and dangerous. You've got to understand, when things start falling apart in the manner in which they are, there is a level of desperation among the people within this inner circle. And among the inner circle, you've got Barack Hussein Obama. And do not, folks, do not underestimate the influence of Michelle Obama. You've got Valerie Jarrett. Keep your eyes, both eyes, on Valerie Jarrett. Watch what she does. Follow her very closely. Janet Napolitano, and also John.
Not too closely.
Just, well, you can wear like sunglasses or something, but and Pistoli from the TSA, but Napolitano, Jarrett, and other politicos, David Axelrod as well. These are like cornered rats. I'm telling you, they're very dangerous. Now, the second part of that, folks, according to the information I got here over the last couple of days from my source at DHS, there's a good possibility that Obama has outlived his usefulness as the cutout Manchurian candidate. Just think about that. And everything that denotes, or could possibly denote. That's as far as I'm going to say on that. But that if something would happen there, legally or otherwise, you could possibly see the internal race riots, the wars, the societal breakdowns just go absolutely south. This is tightly connected as well. This IRS scandal, all the scandals are tightly connected as well. And I'm going to finish up by saying this, to the devaluation and debasement of the U.S. dollar. That's what V said last week, or this past week. You've got to understand, they want to take down, they want to kill, they want to murder the U.S. dollar. And although Kyle Bass will not say it, has not said it, and probably will never say it, it's my belief, personal belief, based on a totality of evidence, that where he got that information, that senior Obama official at the time of the 2011 interview, was none other than TurboTax Timmy Geithner. And if you don't think that this is part of the larger Obama agenda, that's an extension of the Bush, extension of the Clinton, extension of the Bush Sr., extension of fill in the blank since 1913. If you don't think that that's part of the agenda, then you're naive.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you say there were currently scandals involving the White House?
Did I say that?
I think you did. Yeah.
I must be mistaken.
Remember this from yesterday?
With the political media dizzy from a very bad bout of scandal fever, the president decided today that the only thing that can get that fever to go down would be to show the political media that he is taking charge of scandal management in the White House, even though there are no real scandals in Washington involving the White House in any way. First, the president dealt with the top.
Well, see.
Well, I stand corrected. I'm embarrassed.
My source, Lawrence O'Donnell, tells me there was no scandals, so I'm going to have to side with him. Man. No, a little bit of humor here.
I've got this lump on my forehead from hitting my head on my desk, trying to knock some sense into myself. It's crazy, folks, how this is all working out.
It's going to get crazier. I'm going to hit some important news here. Russia sends more advanced missiles to aid Assad in Syria. Russia has sent advanced cruise ship missiles to Syria, a move that illustrates the depth of its support for the government led by President Bashir al-Assad. American officials said Thursday Russia has previously provided a version of the missiles called Yakhons, Yakhonts, to Syria, but those delivered recently are outfitted with an advanced radar that makes them more effective, according to the American officials who are familiar with the classified intelligence reports and would only discuss the shipment on the basis of anonymity. Unlike a Scud and other longer-range surface-to-surface missiles that Assad government has used against opposition forces, the Yakhont anti-ship missile system provides the Syrian military.
I would pronounce that Yakhont. I don't know. Really, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I would say Yakhont.
Okay. It provides the Syrian military with a formidable weapon to counter any effort by international forces to reinforce Syrian opposition fighters by imposing a naval embargo, establishing a no-fly zone, or carrying out limited airstrikes. It enables a regime to deter foreign forces looking to supply the opposition from the sea from undertaking a more active role if a no-fly zone or shipping embargo were to be declared at some point, says Nick Brown, editor-in-chief of IHS Jane's International Defense Review. It's a real ship killer. Well, Jeffrey White, a fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy and former senior American intelligence official, and Syria's strengthened arsenal would tend to push Western or Allied naval activity further off the coast, and was also a signal of the Russian commitment to the Syrian government. The disclosure of the delivery comes as Russia and the United States planning to conclave an international conference that is aimed at ending the brutal conflict in Syria, which has killed more than 70,000. The conference is expected to be held in early June and to include representatives of the Assad government and the Syrian opposition.
Now, just to be clear, Joe, again, unlike the Scud missiles, as you said earlier, and other long-range surface-to-surface missiles, they're
surface-to-craft missiles.
Well, yeah,
whether they be aircraft, ships.
This is no small headline. I mean, this should not be buried on New York Times page. Page F-16.
Shoulder rocket fire missiles.
No, this is a big deal because what Putin is doing here is telling the United States, telling NATO, all right, you want to keep screwing around in Syria. We told you, we've been telling you that you. And again, this is what Benghazi was all about. Again, not about the blind sheik or whatever, but about weapons movement, and about destabilizing Assad's government, and about the killing of 80,000 people and displacing more than 1 million people as of right now. But you want to keep doing this. Here's what we're going to do in exchange. Okay, fine. You ship up these weapons. We're shipping out these missiles, these batteries of missiles. You're going to put a no-fly zone in over northern Syria, for example, or any part of Syria. We're going to make sure that Syria is armed with the necessary armaments that will be able to take on this no-fly zone. So what we're seeing is yet one more footstep, one more step, one more yard, one more mile toward World War III. Folks, it's coming at breakneck speed. Now, I wonder, and Joe, we didn't talk about this, but I wonder what our or Obama's plan B is. And it also strikes me as interesting too, because we played the audio clips of John McCain, rah rah rah, let's help the anti-Assad people. Lindsey Graham, rah rah rah. All of a sudden, you've got this bipartisan support against the Assad regime. Well, I shouldn't say all of a sudden. Who benefits here? We're doing the work of the Saudis. So, independently, I think we have to look at McCain, Graham, and others who support this Obama/Saudi agenda. They're on the same page as Valerie Jarrett. They're on the same page as Obama. How does that work? The only explanation we can give you, folks, is that they're advancing this globalist New World Order agenda, and they're attempting to take down Syria to get the back door to Iran, but also to destabilize the southern Federation of Russian states, going after the energy there. Folks, you saw it with Afghanistan. You saw it with Iraq. Now you're going to see it with Syria. But the difference is Syria is not going to implode like Iraq did. And Joe, you were talking, we're going to take a kind of a sharp right turn here. You were talking earlier about the potential for civil war in Iraq. Or, well, yeah.
Yes.
But it was off air, I guess, perhaps.
Yes. No, there was an attack that killed 76 people, wounding dozens more, in the deadliest wave of violence in 8 months in Baquba, a town of 50 miles outside of Baghdad. 43 people were killed, 56 wounded on Friday. Wounded after Friday prayers.
Now, remember? Oh, go on.
The blast was followed by a second explosion, tearing into the crowds of people who rushed to the scene to help the victims, police told Reuters. Well, that sounds like a U.S. government/Al-Qaeda operation.
But folks, remember back in the mid-2000s, I'll say 2003, 2004, perhaps not quite the mid-2000s, when Bush was saying we were and Cheney going into Iraq to topple Hussein, to capture Iraq. And we had, including myself, and I'll tell you flat out, I was right there cheering, holding, waving the American flag right behind Bush, right behind Cheney, and on board with these policies. Now, 8 years later, we're finding out, or 9 years later, what we're finding out is we were hoodwinked into believing a lie. And the lie is this. The lie is that this is a globalist agenda. This is a power, a setup of a power structure here, changing the chess pieces, or moving the chess pieces around on the three-dimensional chessboard. This is a fight for the future. This is a fight for the future of the various countries, including and especially Russia and China. And this is going to put us in a dead match between Russia and China.
Yeah.
So understand how serious this is.
Continuing with the Iraq bombings, the series of attacks targeting Sunnis followed 2 days of attacks against the Shiites, in which dozens have died. There have been a string of bombings following a pattern in a tit-for-tat civil war that has now killed tens of thousands of people in Iraq. Now, we talked about an Iraqi civil war a couple weeks ago.
We did. Yes, we did.
And we are seeing it now. The death toll in the mid-April killings, till now was 60 lives, 300 injured. And that was from one little area, and it was the deadliest since 2008. Overall violence in Iraq has dropped since its peak in 05 to 07, but tensions between Sunnis and Shiites have remained high since the U.S.-led invasion of the country in 03. Since the end of 2011, when the U.S. combat troops finally left Iraq, the Iraqi army and police forces have been unable to prevent an increase in insurgency in violence. Al-Qaeda has been highly active in Iraq since the U.S.-led invasion of 03, and now is acknowledged as being much of the Sunni insurgency and sectarian violence that is gripping most of the country. Yep. And it ends basically, it says crumbling infrastructure is matched with rampant corruption. Transparency International recently ranked Iraq as the 8th most corrupt country in the world. What are we, first? In one of the latest scandals, the Electronic Ministry was involved in a $1.7 billion fraud. And I just want to end with this. The first comment from the article. Brought to you from Stability and Peace, Bush and Americans. Sometimes bloodbath in Iraq, which they love.
I got to tell you,
I mean, that's right.
Sometimes the comments are even better than the article.
We have another interesting article here where I did not see this until today. A dark, massive asteroid to fly past Earth on May 31st. 1.7 miles long, the surface covered in a sticky black substance similar to the gunk at the bottom of a barbecue. That's right. That's what the article says. If it impacted Earth, it would probably result in a global extinction. Good thing it's making just a flyby. Asteroid 1998 QE2. That doesn't sound good. It's an asteroid for the quantitative easers. No, it's going to make a pass by Earth on May 31st at 1:59 p.m. Pacific time. Scientists are not sure where this unusually large space rock was discovered, but it was discovered 15 years ago. The mysterious sooty substance on its surface could indicate it may have been a result of a comet that flew too close to the sun. And the long and short of it is this. The JPL records say that the asteroid will be 15 times the distance between the Earth and the Moon, but it will be close enough for powerful radar antennas to see features as small as 12 feet across. They say there is no need to panic, but we do need to pay attention. There's a really big asteroid, similar in size to the one that killed off the dinosaurs, and it's getting very close to us. That, according to... Where is your name? A woman at the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Manzir. Manzir is the last name there. No, you're muted. Also,
not the bro. That was a beautiful comment too. Not the bro, but the Manzir. Okay,
funny.
Never mind.
I'm going to hit this article and toss it to you. Radioactive leak found at Palisades nuclear power plant. Investigators have discovered a half-inch long crack around a nozzle of one of the tanks of the Palisades nuclear power plant and have attributed the crack to a water leakage that spilled radioactive water into Lake Michigan on May 5th. The plant, which is located on the shore of the Great Lake and operated by Entergy, was shut down after a water tank exceeded the size threshold and leaked. Authorities say the crack leak led to about 79 gallons of slightly radioactive water spilling from the Palisades plant into the lake. WOOD TV reports the leak came from a 300,000 gallon injection and refueling tank, which floods and cools the nuclear reactor with bordered water during refueling outages. It also removes heat from the reactor when there is loss of coolant by sourcing the safety injection system. Anyway, this month incident marks the second time the injection and refueling tank has leaked and caused the 9th shutdown of the plant since September 2011. Since 2012, the plant has been shut down 6 times as a result of the leaks.
See, our infrastructure is falling apart The power plants are not being kept up the way they should be. You've got this massive push toward alternative energy sources. And it's not, to me, folks, this is as if they're asking for some sort of accident to happen to say, see, we told you so. We told you how bad nuclear power is. Oh, man. The
NRC, the National Radiation...
You're muted now. See, this goes deeper than just what we're hearing.
Yeah. We see problems with nuclear plants on the coast of California, also up north in Washington to Michigan. Remember the huge readings that we're getting up there?
Yes.
This was maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
Yep.
And the Nuclear Regulatory Committee, they were kind of saying there was a false reading, false positive. Well, no, it's not, because now they came out and said, well, this is what they say. The Nuclear Regulatory Committee's radiation limits are based on scientific studies and have not been shown to cause harmful health effects. The regulatory reviews new information to make sure agencies' limits are optimal for protecting public health, but this was on an unplanned release that should not have had happened. And NRC asserts a dose to the public was 0.002% of the federal limit. The max dose to the public is a limit to 0.1 REM per year. But because the Palisades plant had been shut down 9 times since September of 11, and it had frequently leaked in the past, Americans have expressed deep concern over their lack of safety and that repeatedly caused problems in Lakeside Covert Township, Michigan.
Look, Lockbaum, the director of the Union of Concerned Scientists Nuclear Safety Project, it said that it's unacceptable for the plant to be suffering these reported leaks. And I think that's the crux of it here. He knows that you can't have this. You cannot have a project, a nuclear plant that's undergoing these leaks. And you can't be patching them up with duct tape, essentially, is what they're saying. The NRC mandates plant owners to find and fix all safety hazards. Applying these Band-Aid fixes every few months is not complying with the federal regulations. And no one is taking any steps to make sure that these fixes are implemented. Folks, if you look at this...
No, they are. So you got to read this. Listen to this. You're going to love this. Applying the Band-Aid fixes every few months.
Right.
They say that...
it's not complying.
Patch and restart. Well, it's great for generating revenue, but bad for public safety.
Well, then that's it. Then the key here is revenue generation. Ladies and gentlemen, what we want you to do is take a few steps back and take a look at all of these things that are going on. It's my turn here to talk about Huma Abedin. Huma Abedin.
You got the rest till the top of the hour.
Well, Anthony Weiner. Of course, the disgraced Anthony Weiner. His wife is Huma Abedin, or Huma Abedin, however you want to pronounce it. She's got connections to the Muslim Brotherhood. Folks, understand that we are a captured operation. Our country has been captured from within. Let's look at all of the things we've talked about so far tonight in tonight's program. And let's toss in Huma here into the mix as well, because this is all part of it here too. The State Department, under Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton, created an arrangement for Huma Abedin, a longtime aide and confidant of Hillary's, to work for private clients as a consultant while serving as a top advisor in the State Department. So she's got her regular job with Hillary as her body person initially, and then, of course, as an aide in the State Department. Now she's working at the same time as a private consultant. Now, Huma did not disclose the arrangements or how much income she made from her second job, if you will, on her financial reports. Now,
I wonder if she had to pay taxes on it.
She probably went and got advice from Turbo Timmy Geithner. It's required for by officials, to make public any significant sources of income, and in that, when you're working in that capacity. What we're seeing, we selected Huma Abedin because she's in the news, and of course this news is coming out, but this is what is taking place throughout the government. So you've got this government that is out of control. They're working for outside interests. Again, look back, look at what is going on in totality here, and you will see at work, you will see the globalist agenda at work here. You will see the Illuminati agenda. You will see this fictition, the illusion of the left and right. It's, I just want to go and touch on this here. The fact that we are a representative republic, some call us erroneously a democracy, but the concept, we'll say, of democracy is, of course, a very respectable one, and something a society or community does need in order to genuinely prosper. Free market capitalism. We have to prosper.
If I can just jump in here and say, I just want to say this about the word democracy. I have seen Fox News hosts. I have seen conservative politicians.
Right.
I don't think they understand what they're saying when they say the word democracy. We don't live in a democracy, and I've seen it being done by people in the alternative media.
Right, right. And just as a clear example, a democracy is, and I've heard so many examples, but here's one: two men. Mob rule. 2 men, 1 woman in an elevator. They take a vote about raping the woman. It's 2-1. The woman loses. The motion passes. The woman is raped. That's democracy. That's a very crude example. Then you get to the goats or the sheep and the fox, or whatever example you want to use. But in the end, mob rule. But the fact of the matter is, we live or we should have a capitalistic society, a free market capitalism. But instead, what we have, in the case of Huma Abedin, in other cases as well, regardless, we've got this destruction of free market capitalism to crony capitalism, to this oligarchy, where we have this elite ruling class, the Obaministas, the Clintonistas, the Bushistas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're all of the same ilk. They, what is happening here is that the Illuminati, these families have taken and completely turned upside down and abused our country and Western society to serve only their interests, the interests of a select few. Just like George Carlin said, it's a club and you're not in it.
I'm actually looking on the U.S. Government Printing Office website right now, and they have a library. And
right.
The library is called The Core Documents of Our Democracy.
Well, yeah, okay. Again, just understand that we live in a representative republic, but we're often told, we're constantly told how we live in this free world, and we are continually exposed to stories depicting other tyrannies around the world. And we're being told, you and I are being told, ladies and gentlemen, how free we are in comparison. Yet the sad truth is that although we might not, although we may currently not be as blatantly controlled in an outright manner as others are outside of our free world, we are far from free as most of us think, and nowhere free as we potentially could be without this domineering Illuminati, their institutions of control that currently burden and burden our lives and subjugate us to this tyrannical rule. You might not see it, but I know, folks, you feel it, and you go through the motions. You're not as free as you think, but the more you open your eyes and the more you open your mind, the more obvious it becomes that this is, in fact, the very things that we are told exist to enable our freedom. For example, politics, that actually serve to take it away. You've got to understand this. It's massively important to this ruling class of oligarchs. And if you want to call them the Illuminati, do that. That's who they are. But it's massively important to these oligarchs that the people believe, folks, we must believe we're free, because they're far more productive this way. These oligarchs, these tyrannical people, and they pose no threat, and pose no threat to the rule compared to if we knew, I should say, how restricted we were and how controlled we really are. This would cause resistance and problems for them. Now we see the breaks in the dams about controlling. We got a good glimpse in Boston. I believe, folks, I believe that Boston, in particular, regardless of what you might have believed might have been the cause, Boston was a test of sorts. How much would the American population take? What kind of resistance would be seen? What kind of problems could be expected by marshaling us down in Boston while looking for these two killers, or this one killer, I should say? It's much more effective to deceive the people into thinking that they're free and that those at the top truly have their best interests at heart. And it's the political system and the idea of democracy that allows this. Now, you might not know this name, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Was a noted member of the Bavarian Illuminati. He once said this, and this quote you might be familiar with: "None are so hopelessly enslaved as those who falsely believe they are free." You see, this aptly illustrates the position of those who think that simply because you're given a choice between this political party or that party, or you're given a choice whether you can vote on this or that, then you are therefore free. They cleverly provide us with the illusion of choice. That's never so apparent in the left-right paradigm. You heard it today. You heard it in the arguments or the testimony or the talking points of Lindsey Graham, of John McCain. Aren't these supposed to be the bastions of freedom for the conservatives?
And those of you who were alive in the 1940s have seen it. It's Executive Order 9066, resulting in the relocation of the Japanese during the World War II. Now, these were U.S. citizens that were put into internment camps while we were at war with Japan.
You know, the key to figuring out how politics serves to fundamentally restrict you, how today, what's taking place today, and to empower only those in control, and to seeing how what most of us believe to me, this, I'll use the word democracy here, is actually nothing but an illusion, is understanding that fundamentally the different political parties are merely different arms of the same beast. They're different tentacles of the same octopus. It doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat, if you live in the United States, if you live elsewhere like Labor or Conservative Party or whatever, black, white, gray, they're all manipulated by the same controlling hand. And of course the Illuminati. So regardless of which party gets voted into power by the people, the people in power behind the scenes still are in power. So once again, the notion of left or right is completely false. You know that, and we've seen this. We've seen this in the past, and we see it today. We see it with the small things like Huma Abedin, the fact that this person can actually get away with, for example, doing consulting work at the State Department. Well, in fact, to the detriment of the United States, arguably to the detriment of the United States. Meanwhile, Anthony Weiner, her husband, he's making his preparations to take over New York as mayor. He believes he's going to be the next mayor of New York City. Do you see how these people are being secreted into various positions of power? This is all part of a larger plan. You've got, with Huma Abedin, for example, while continuing her work at State in the latter half of last year, she also worked for a company called Teneo, I believe it's how it's pronounced. It's a strategic consulting firm founded by Doug Band. Guess who Doug Band is? He's tied at the hip to Bill Clinton. Okay, if that's not enough, Teneo has advised corporate clients like Coca-Cola, and guess who else? MF Global. And of course, we know MF Global is the collapsed brokerage firm run by John Corzine, the former governor of New Jersey. Can you see the incestuous nature of this? Can you see the tentacles of the power brokers reaching into every organization in the United States of America? And even if you're not listening to this in the United States, if you're listening to this, and I want to say hello to the people listening in the Bahamas, as a colony there, the tentacles of the Illuminati are reaching in your government. To the people listening in Europe, the same. Perhaps even further advanced there. But you can see where the Clintons never left power, and the Clintons are all a part of this. And if you go one step higher, just one step higher, who are these people? Folks, did you know? Have you looked at the relationships between, what is it, Joe? Maybe 37 of the total number of presidents, or 33? I don't really know the number offhand, but I know it's a high number, 37, 34, 33. They're all interrelated, or they're related to royalty. British royalty, to be precise. Now, let me take you back very quickly to what happened to Barack Hussein Obama in Perm, Russia, Siberia. Folks listening to this program will recall my talking about this when he was on the the committee to reduce the nuclear weapons, bilaterally reduce nuclear weapons. And he was traveling with a delegation, and he was stopped in Perm, which is a Russian city, and kept for 3 hours by the FSB. His passport was taken, and he was interviewed for 3 hours because his passport had problems. This is back when he was a senator from Illinois. So what was that? What happened during that event? What did his passport? What was up with his passport? Could it be, folks, that not only are we a captured operation, but we're a captured operation with a leader, and I believe this to be true, with a leader that has allegiance not to the United States, but perhaps to Britain, Great Britain. And you might think, well, that really doesn't sound too awful bad. It could be worse. It could be Russia, or it could be China. No, you're not understanding what's going on here. You've got this push for this national or this international globalist elite, the Illuminati, the takedown of the US dollar. And when that happens, the city of London, or London City, that 10-block area that V spoke of, that he spoke of directly, where do you think our digital one world, one global currency is going to be administrated from? It's going to be Camelot once again. It's going to be where the sun never sets on the British Empire ever again. And if you take it even one step further, to those of you who like to connect the dots, what are we seeing about the Antichrist? Now, I know that this is way out in the weeds here, but what do we see about the Antichrist? What do we see about the individual that's going to come on the scene? Well, he's going to have people that will give him complete allegiance monetarily.
Nice hair? No.
Nice hair, nice teeth, yeah.
No, he is going to command he's going to be very charismatic. People are going to, I mean, a lot of what we saw with Obama in 2008, the way the people were drawn to him, the way that people felt about him, it's going to be that on a much more massive scale.
But Joe, you got me on
characteristics of the Antichrist are just that, of a charismatic, peace-bringing solution maker, when in all reality it is a anti-God, tyrannical, self-serving beast. And
yes.
And that's the only way the Antichrist spirit can be described as is an evil, demonic beast that has been seen throughout history in people and leaders and movements, and it is going to encompass the globe, as the Bible prophesies about the end days, when the Antichrist declares himself to be God. He is going to exalt himself above the Most High, and he is going to implement a system, the mark of the beast system, that demands his worship and his allegiance. And if you do not comply, you will be killed.
Okay, stop right there, though.
This is why.
But he would, to implement the mark of the beast system. What does that imply? It implicitly the mark of the beast would be implicit with what? The monetary system, correct?
The mark of the beast would encompass not only the monetary system, but you will, yes, it specifically states in the Bible your lack of ability to buy or sell if you're not part of this program.
Okay,
but I think it goes further than that in my mind. I mean, you will not be able to do anything. You will be underground. It'll be like Escape from LA, or to even better analogy would be, just imagine what you saw in Watertown, Boston, or in Watertown, Massachusetts, on a global scale.
Correct.
Door to door, to make you take the mark or to kill you if you refuse. And then there will be those surviving.
But this, my research, and pardon me for going off script, but my research, Joe, and I'm going to blame a lot of this on you, is when you follow the breadcrumbs of this, what we're seeing right now, once again, whether it's the Abedines or the Ahmadins, or whether it's the what you mentioned with the battlefield, with the military-industrial complex. If you follow the breadcrumbs, I believe it takes you to London City. And I really believe a keystone of this Antichrist is going to be the economic aspects of things, which is why they've got to kill the dollar, because they've got to be able to implement this new this new global currency. Now, that said, I
think you're going to be surprised.
But you mean I'll be surprised, or we'll all be surprised?
I think you're going to be surprised if you're looking to London. London is nothing more than, in my opinion, the one of the three main platforms for the economic economic cities in the world. Nothing more. It is no more important than New York City. The Antichrist has his eyes on what country? Would you say?
Well, wait a second. I'm not talking about where the Antichrist has his eyes on. I'm talking about where
the money
where he would originate.
In other words,
yes.
Well, from my understanding, will come from Persia, but
I don't believe that one bit.
In order to control the monetary system, if he were to come on the scene today, yes, he would have to be in London and in New York and in Brussels, or the three major financial capitals of the world.
All right. Well, the only thing I want to say is this. After doing a lot of research on this, I would keep my eyes very close on London City. I'd keep my eyes very, very fixated. Well, I shouldn't say fixated, but my interest lies there with respect to the to what would be taking place. Okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, if you want to say Persia, I suppose an argument can be made about Persia. In fact, we'll get your...
It's in Daniel. It's in Daniel. You and me are going to have to do a Daniel Bible study on this show one of these days. But we're up against the top of the hour break, folks. We're going to take your calls in the third hour exclusively. So get on hold now. The number is 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. More news, your phone calls.
Before you go to the top of the break, I just want to address Mike here. Hey, Mike. Mike writes, all your yapping about Obama's IRS scam, Benghazi, will go into the wastebasket just like Fast and Furious and your birther talk did.
Where's Mike writing this at?
He just sent me an email.
Wait, can you repeat it? Because I didn't.
Yeah. It says, okay, the subject line is this. I see your yapping has not changed, just the subject. My response to you, Mike, is I see that your listening habits haven't changed either. Okay. Dear Mr. Hagmann, all your yapping about Obama's IRS scam and Benghazi will go into the wastebasket just like Fast and Furious and your birther talk did. Mike, I don't know what you're trying to tell me here. If you're saying that,
it doesn't matter. I mean, well, I understand what he's saying. The way he is addressing you in a almost like an enemy type of see what happened before. It's going to happen again. Nothing you can do will stop the corruption. And he's right. I mean, we aren't out here to end the corruption in Washington. We will expose it. But if you expect us to advocate some type of offensive action to get ourselves killed, you're crazy, first of all. And second of all, our focus is on the Lord. We can expose the evil. And that's what we do on air. But we also talk about the Lord. And I just would urge Michael to, I hope he reads his Bible and has a good relationship with the Lord. Mike.
Yeah.
Mikey.
I just wanted to bring that up, Mike. I want to thank you so much, despite all of our yapping. Thank you so much for continuing to listen.
We'll be back after these messages with some more yapping. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Friday, May 17th, 2013.
Friends,
stay with us.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth Squad specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the Internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
If you love pineapple as much as I do, I've got some great news for you. You're going to love this offer from Freeze Dry Guy. For the month of May, Freeze Dry Guy is offering the finest quality freeze-dried pineapple, a case of 6 number 10 cans yielding 114 servings at a special introductory price. First quality freeze-dried pineapple grown and packed with nothing added. This healthy treat works wonders with salad. It's great for snacking, hiking, hunting, camping, and for adding to your food storage program. And please note that Freeze Dry Guy's foods will store on your shelf for decades. Order now and get free shipping to your front door within the lower 48 states. This special introductory price is good until May 31st. For more information and a free complete product list, go to freezedryguy.com or phone 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com 866-404-3663.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And welcome back, everyone, to our third and final hour of the final show of the week on this Friday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Joe Hagmann here with my co-host Doug Hagmann. We're going to take your phone calls this hour, 661-2 244-9839.
Our focus is going to be on the new callers, and we know that callers didn't get in before. Sheila, Donna, we're going to get to you, but our focus is going to be on new callers. And if you can, make it concise so we can get in as many callers as we possibly can this hour to get your take on what's going on, what's important to you in the headlines.
What is important to you in the headlines? That we want to find out. I'm going to go to the phones and also some articles we can hit in the meantime if people want to talk about these. Also, the White House Shield Bill could make it easier for the government to get journalist sources. Now, this is dangerous because we know how important anonymity of sources are when dealing with very sensitive information. Also, psychiatry's revamped DSM guidebook fuels debate. We talked about this. This is the Bible for psychology. This DSM guidebook is expanding definitions of mental illnesses and making up new ones like spirituality. But this specific article deals with attention deficit disorder, and there are already so many children and Americans on attention deficit disorder type drugs, and they are expanding their definitions of what ADD is. So you can weigh in on that as well. We're going to get to Sheila and Donna, but first we're going to go to area code 618. You're up first. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Oh, hi. My name is Jason. I'll keep this very short just because I want to. Last night, I know you guys wanted to fit in a lot of newer callers. I just want to sit there and say, does anybody notice, you or your father, when you look at just like how DHS is just becoming like it's just an entity by itself, and just the power that separately from the military, but in terms of just the recent things and news events that they, the ammunition and everything like that, doesn't, I always, maybe I'm the younger generation here, but doesn't like some of the people that are like 75, 80 years old, a little bit older and stuff like that, don't they recognize or see the things they have so much knowledge that they've seen different events happen throughout all of history, at least in our country, and don't they see any resemblance like, hey, this something seriously messed up? I just always kind of wonder why that I could stand up and say something, but like the older generations aren't standing up and saying, hey, this is not right. Look at our freedoms. This is not how it used to be. And I just wonder why if you had any response in terms of that.
I just want to say this, caller, you exemplify the level of intellect of our callers and our listener base. What a fantastic observation. To answer your question, yes, they are saying things. They're just not being heard. You have the greatest generation dying off, or for the most part has died off, but you've got still the individuals who are in the upper age range, the 70 to 80 year old age range, who are warning, at least quietly warning their family members and friends and anyone who will listen about what is taking place. Your observations about the autonomous nature of DHS, right on the money. It's growing in that fashion. We've seen it happen in history. And folks, please listen to what that gentleman just said. Caller, fantastic. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Does it catch you any sort of like, that it just kind of feels like, I don't know, it feels like a little bit toward at least what I've heard and what I've, read about, and, I'm only 38, but just in terms of like a Nazi Germany type of thing, like the build up beforehand or something like that. It just has that feeling, and I'm just wondering, like, these people that are like, our elected officials, some of them have been in there for, I guess I could use candy or something like that, and, but some of these guys have been in there for so long, and they have a lot more experience, and I'm just wondering, even those guys, have they already sold out, or are they just, I just look for like the older generation to kind of go, hey, wait a minute here, this is not right. This is not how it was in the 50s or so. This is not how, look at our freedoms and look at the things that we're, for me, I just always like look for them, like, don't they recognize it, or if they've already sold out, they just don't care?
The top or the club of 535, meaning the Congress. It's my belief, it's our belief, Joe and I, based on our research and talking with sources, that they have essentially sold their souls and are now working for a seat at the globalist table. The other people involved, either peripherally or just common folk like you and I, are sounding the alarm bells at 60, at 70, at 80 years old. But it's interesting because few are listening. The younger people are listening are not listening because they've been indoctrinated through the public school education, through the revisionist history, not to recognize what's going on. So we've got a very, very difficult road ahead of us to change the hearts and minds of the people who are willing to listen.
Well, I do, at least in terms of what's in my house and my children, because like I said, the child comes home and when he's over at his mother's house on days that I'm working, he has an older sister, and they'll make a comment that, oh yeah, they're teaching, they're teaching that we came from monkeys, or a kid mentioned that at school or something like that. But he already knows that that's not how it was. I've already sat him down and explained to him, so he understands that we came and God created everything. He didn't. I didn't. At least in that generation, I put my foot down and made sure that he does know, and he is corrected on those things. And so I at least feel I'm very blessed in that regard, very much, because he does have a very good head on his shoulders. If I could take a real quick spin, it's just one more observation I noticed the other day. I didn't know if either one of you had brought this on the radio or not. What I always try to do is, I believe I always start out with the basic principle of foundation that I believe that God created everything. I believe that Jesus is my Lord and Savior. I start out with that basic principle. I believe that the Bible is true. So I start out with that foundation. But what I do separately, I notice and I look around at the world, and I notice there's different things in the Bible that we could probably debate upon. And, there's what does this mean, or what does this tense mean, or there's different things. But there's some things that are very blatantly out. It says it very, very clearly. What was the Israel out of all those years founding their own nation and everything. And the thing that I noticed was it feels like we're on a roller coaster, because what seemed to take the place of years, like 10, 20 years, different big signs. I can point out to a couple just big ones that are happening right now, and I just wonder why nobody ever opens up their eyes to this. And I'll just point just one or two of them out. So 7 or 8 months ago or so, I heard the guy on TV and on the news, different news stations, was talking about the 5D chip. So I asked myself a simple question. It says in the Bible about buying and selling, and everybody will receive a mark. So I asked myself another logical question. Time in history, up until this point, was that logical or feasible in terms of applying that to the whole world? Or is it possible now? And I always come up with the answer of, well, it's possible now. And then I ask myself these different questions. 500 years ago, could we have blown up a third of the world? Could we have done that? No. Well, I don't think we could maybe blow up a half a mountain or something, maybe with all the TNT. But really within the last, I would say after the 40s or so, that was possible. Israel became a nation. What would the other different things that the last one I would just bring up would be, I heard on a Christian radio show the other day about the blood moons or so in 2014 and 2015. Now, at least I'm a little bit literate in terms of the Bible. I remember reading that, and that was one of the signs. I think it's in Revelation 6 or something like that. But doesn't people notice that these events are taking place faster and faster? I'm not giving the whole credence to what is in terms of the Bible. Like, let's say the Catholic prophecy. Okay, they believe that's the last pope. It took all those years, and these are like big events. 2012, yeah. People subscribe to the Mayan calendar, but you got to step back and look at it. You got the whole world focused on like the end of the world. It's like I don't think that. I don't believe in terms of that prophecy, but what I do is it's kind of weird. It's like God's getting your attention and shaking and saying, "Hey, you got the whole world focused on, things are not right." And so things are kind of starting to come faster and faster and faster at the end of a roller coaster when you're going down the hill. And these events aren't taking place every 5 or 10 years. They're like big events that are taking place in a short period of time.
You're right. No, this is exactly correct. We are seeing the increase of activity in all aspects of our life, whether it be attacks on religion, attacks on ourselves through chemicals and poisons in our water, food, etc. And the reason people are not seeing it, and a lot of people are waking up slower than we like to see, but the people who are deceived are falling deeper into deception, the people that refuse to open their eyes. But the people who are awake are feeling the intensity increase, and they are growing closer to the Lord, or they are growing further.
And do one more little just response on that, and then I'll let you guys go. Even if I was an atheist, I would have to say, well, I can see the Bible, somebody writing something down, getting a couple things right, but these are things that are happening in a very short time period, blatantly out things that what it says, and they're just disregarding it all. Even on a logical basis, they're disregarding it. They don't even have to believe it. Believe in God. They're even on a logical basis, they're not even scratching their head going, well, hey, you know what, that does say that in there. There's a lot of these events that are taking place. They're not at least scratching their head on a logical basis.
You're right, and it is that intellectual deficiency, or is that something else? Is that why is that?
That I think that's the question. Maybe there's something I would, maybe because I'm not sure. I think maybe there's a force that's keeping them from seeing that even on a logical basis. But even Stephen Hawkins would have to sit there and admit that, hey, you know what, it does say this, and man, the guy did write something down 2,000 years ago or 1,900 years ago. Wow, there's a lot of events. Hey, Israel became a nation. Wow, it's talking about blood, and, all these events. At least on a logical basis, they would have to at least scratch their heads and go, well, man, you're right. We do have a chip that we could implant. Do that now. We couldn't do it 200 years ago. So at least on a logical basis, they would have to at least admit that.
I agree with you on that, and I really can't answer where that disconnect lies, except to say that I believe that it's more than likely the devil at work, and yeah, I'll go with that. There is, of course, on our part, the lack of I don't want to say lack of curiosity necessarily, but the lack of intent to find out what the truth is. I think that there's this malaise, a general malaise that has gripped our country, especially our country, whether it be about the civil rights or whether it be about not religion but spirituality. There's a malaise that has gripped our country, and I think it's to our detriment.
Well, I appreciate your time, and you guys both have a good night and everything, and God bless you both.
God bless you. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Great
Bye.
call, and thank you.
Yeah, very good observations. Very point. It's flat right on, man. Absolutely.
We're going to go to Sheila next. Sheila, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Sheila.
Hi. When you were talking about Syria, I got to thinking about Hezbollah. And back about 6 years ago, remember Israel went to war with Hezbollah? Pretty much blew up Beirut? Okay. Well, after that happened, Hezbollah went to the people, because I could never understand how the people could let these people put their missiles and whatnot in residential areas and whatnot, unless he was doing it at gunpoint. But anyway, after that war took place, Hezbollah went to their people and told them, if you help us, we'll give you money to rebuild your homes and give you food and water and medical care. So you fast-track that to what's going on over here, okay? I remember back in the late 70s when my son was in kindergarten. They sent home a paper saying that the state would pay half of your lunch bill, which was only 25 cents a day at the time. And then it went from that to a full lunch every day. Then you fast-tracked up to the 80s. It was full lunches and breakfast. And then it went from that to child care in the school. If you get pregnant, have a kid, you can bring your kid to school, and they got a nursery there to take care of your kid for you. So, my daughter-in-law here a couple of years ago was in the other room, and she was having a fit because her electric bill was so high. So I went out there, and I said, I know what's going on. And she said, my electric bill's so high, I can't understand it. Well, I said, give it to me. Let me look at it. So I was sitting there looking at it, and I'm going down this list, and I see this societal thing on there. And I said to her, what's this? Societal thing here. It was $20. And she said, I don't know, it's got something to do with paying people's electric bills. Well, I lost my husband back in 2006, okay? On the bottom of the electric bill, there was a little box to check. And if you wanted to put an extra $1 in to help pay somebody's bill, that was your choice.
Sure.
Well, that choice has been taken away, okay? And I said to her, you don't have to pay that $20. No, they cannot make you pay that. So she got on the phone and called the electric company, and they told her that the state said they had to pay it. And she told me what they said, and I said, no, you don't. Don't pay it. The state cannot tell you what you do with your money.
We have the same thing here in our state. No, and it's strictly voluntary compliance.
Well, it's probably going to lead. It's going to probably lead to this. So tonight, my grandson's 17. Okay, he's fixing to drive, and she said to me tonight that she had to pay $350 for him to get his license. And I looked at her, and I'm like, you take your kid out down here at the Ames parking lot. It's a great big parking lot around here. Right. I said, you take your kid down there, you teach him how to drive, teach him how to parallel park, end of story, and you go get the permit and whatnot,
Right.
No, they can't do that. They have to pay $350 now to the state for him to get his license.
Are you sure it's to the state, or is it to a private entity to...
No, she said it was the state. She said it was the state. I said, are you sure? She says, yeah. So, see, they gradually... See, that when they started out with the partial lunches, when my son was in kindergarten, it was your choice.
Right.
And then gradually, they moved it up into where they was just slowly, bit by bit, taking away your right. And a lot of people don't even know that it's going on. And if they do know, they probably think they don't have any choice in the matter because it's coming from the state. Well,
interesting.
No, they wouldn't get my money. What are they going to do?
Well, it's my understanding, and I don't know how. I know it's different from state to state, but for example, in Pennsylvania, you pay X amount of dollars to get your permit, and then of course you take your driver's test.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's no requirement, at least in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, for any type of like $350 is absurd.
I think that's something.
What does that go to? I mean, what's the reason behind?
Somebody's pocket.
Well,
it goes in somebody's pocket. They're just plain ripping people off.
Let me rephrase it, Sheila. Let me rephrase the question. Do you know what that $350 what they're saying it is for specifically? Do you know? Did that person tell you?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't get it.
Yeah, that's something. In fact, what state is that, if I can ask?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Over here in the land of the crooked.
Yeah, yeah, John Corsine's alma mater.
Oh, can't stand him.
We'll look into that because that's interesting. I want to find out exactly what you're referring to. And with respect to the electric and the subsidies like that, you can see the government encroachment in all aspects of our lives over the last 20, 30 years. Even the last decade, you can see how it's really encroached. So you make a good point. But
well, Joe was asking the question last night. What can we do to get the people, doing something to stop this? Well, people has been conditioned. Now we've got, 50 million people on welfare? They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them.
No, of course not. No, we've got record numbers on welfare, record numbers on unemployment, even more numbers on disability. Sheila, which is
exactly.
We're creating a fully dependent society on the government, and that is.
They should just start the Department of Laziness, and just if you admit you're lazy, you get a check each week. And
no, wait a second though. That does not include the people who are legitimately injured, hurt, or need that. Of course not. And have paid into the system. Because we know we've paid into the system for a lot of years, so you have to take out those people. But
the majority of people using these benefits don't need to, and the majority of people who need the benefits can't get them. And
correct,
there are people who need them, and it's sad to see the level of fraud, theft, and that's going on.
It's the motive at this point, but. You take what is going on here now, and Hezbollah, the only difference is that Hezbollah is going to the people with the money in hand and saying, here, if you cooperate with us, we're going to give you so much money to do whatever. Where here, it's been a gradual thing. The only thing they don't have here is a turban wrapped around their head.
Well, you made a good point about Hezbollah, for example, and think back to Susan Price, the Gold Star mom that we've had on our show, and even her son was involved, and their company, that unit was involved in paying off mullahs and imams, for example, with U.S. dollars, satchels of U.S. dollars. Look at what Karzai said too about the money being paid the U.S. dollars, the kickbacks that he's receiving. Sheila, what would happen, or what is going to happen, when our U.S. dollar is not worth anything anymore, because our money has been buying influence, has been, for what it's worth, I understand, but it's been buying influence and power in various areas of the world. What happens when that spigot is turned off because that money is worthless?
Well, this is why the military is being stationed all over the country, because they know that when it does happen, everybody's going to freak out. You get people, especially these people that's been on welfare for many, many years, and all of a sudden that check is cut off. You're looking at anarchy. Plain and simple. You're looking at anarchy, and they're banking on it.
That's right.
This government is banking on it.
It's the Alinsky approach. Sheila,
exactly.
God bless you. Yeah.
Okay. We got a bunch of other callers to get to. I want to thank you for your patience this week. I know we didn't get to your calls earlier this week.
That's okay. You're good.
God bless you, Sheila. You have a great weekend.
Hang in there.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Very good points that she made, though.
Yeah.
If you follow them to the logical conclusion, very good points. All right.
We're going to go to area code. Oh, they dropped off real quick. 832 next, then Donna. Area code 832. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey guys, it's Laurel from South Dakota. I just wanted to call in and say, Joe, I applaud what you said about the IRS and how you're going to quit paying taxes. I just wanted to share with you, I quit paying taxes back in 2008 after Hurricane Ike. And I would ask, if no one has watched the film, it's an Aaron Russo documentary called Freedom to Fascism.
Yep.
And
yeah.
It's his documentary where he tried to find the law that, makes the IRS legal. And so I tell everybody, show me the law and I'll be glad to pay my taxes, because there is no law. It is totally illegal. So, so people, that's a really great place to start learning, so you have some arguing points and, some points to, make to bring this issue to front. And unfortunately, a lot of people ask, well, my employer takes out my taxes, so your wife is doing the best she can by taking the maximum amount of deduction. And then, there's probably some information about what you can do to say, hey, just give me all my tax money back, or something like that at the end of the year. But at least you don't let them take, as much as they would like to take. And lastly, one of the best points about the IRS is everybody goes, well, what would we do about roads, building roads and all that kind of stuff? The IRS taxes that they collect only go to pay our debt or the interest on our debt.
Exactly.
And so it's your gasoline taxes that build the roads. It's this and those other taxes out there that do our infrastructure. And so, there is no need for the IRS. And so I applaud you, Joe. And, if you can imagine, if every one of your listeners did what, just quit paying taxes, what we could do, because they can't come after all of us.
Right.
It would
be putting a stick right in their bicycle wheel.
Exactly. Caller.
And if everybody has...
no, I just want to say this. I have a source who said that the only way that we really are going to win or can win at this is if everyone just stops paying taxes. And can you imagine? Can you imagine what would happen? The attention.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, in Aaron Russo's documentary, there's even IRS agents that said, oh, this should be easy, because somebody was offering, I think, about a $50,000 reward to show them the law. And the tax code's out there, but again, that's the statute. That's the regulations. That's not the law.
Correct.
The law does not exist. And so, it's like, so these IRS agents said, oh, this should be easy. They're still looking for it. And in fact, they quit paying their taxes. And, it's just, it's unreal. And, of course, you hear the horror stories about people going to jail and all that kind of stuff. But, we're going to have to stand up. At some point, it's like, so what? What's the worst they can do to you for not paying your taxes? Put you in jail,
We'll call her. Let me just say this.
First.
Yeah. But taxes, income taxes are a voluntary assessment. And okay, and people don't understand that. We're Irwin Schiff. They set up Irwin Schiff, but the bottom line is that people have to understand income taxes are a voluntary assessment. If you understand that concept, and if you do not, I mean, where people get in trouble is when they agree. For example, they self-assess and then they sign, they agree, they enter into a contract. So it's actually a fight of contract law when it comes down to it. Yes.
And then also, I think there's some people that say, one of the things you can do also is when you sign your tax return, cross out the words under perjury of law, because they don't sign the same contract, so to speak, as you're doing. So, you're setting yourself up with the language that everybody has probably signed a tax return, with under perjury of law. And there was one more. Oh, you were talking about it's voluntary. It's also, there's a discussion about what is income. And, this is an income tax. And basically our wages are personal property. They're not income. And so there's another argument that you have as far as, this is not income. So anyway, I just wanted to applaud you, Joe, for, standing up, and I just wish more people would and get educated on this, because you're right. Unless we all do it, we're never going to get anywhere, and the IRS needs to go away. It just really does. And with that, I'll let
Amen.
Yeah, I'll get off the phone and let other people talk. And God bless you both. And wonderful show. Take care.
Thanks so much for
God bless
listening.
you. And hope to hear from you again. What a great call. We're going to go to Donna, then Bill. Donna, you're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Good evening, gentlemen. I want to start out by thanking the Lord Jesus Christ for dying for me. A lot of times we pray, and I think we forget to, at least I do, I forget to thank Him for dying for my sins. And I came across what concerns me as the man that took Glasnow's trial. Personally, I was horrified, absolutely horrified, and thought about it and couldn't believe that what I was seeing. A Fox did cover it, by the way. And,
and imagine this is one incident that is reported out of hundreds of thousands over the last decade, I would say, that don't get reported.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I wonder how many don't get reported or don't get caught. And, we ask why our culture is falling apart, and what concerns me, 1963, God's out of the schools. I mean, we seriously have degraded, our society is so degraded at this point. I don't even know if you can walk it back. I mean, I was listening to Ann Barnhart, every speech she did, and she talks, and this was in 2011 when she did the speech, and she was saying, you wait, you'll see, they're going to bring up the what do you call that, the psychiatry, the whole psychiatry things being, and then now you guys are reporting this. This was, I think, 2011 maybe she did the speech. And the next thing you know, Mickey Weinstein, we're crazy, fundamentalist Christians, insane, patriots are insane. If you believe in the Constitution, it's now becoming exactly what she said. They're going to start attacking on the level of, our mental stability, whether you're mentally capable or not. Next, so far she's panned out pretty good on most of what the talking points that she talked about. Also declaring a tax strike. If every single person did that across the country, it would send a big message to Washington. And again, I really don't know if there's anybody left in Washington. As far as the churches are concerned, I think they've been infiltrated. I don't think they, it broke my heart. I went up my son. I'm having some issues and personal issues, but I was watching those trials about those poor babies. And I went to church. It was just a non-denominational one, because when I first saw it, it was like I couldn't react. You see these pictures, and I just think I went on, I don't know, I was just blank, and then all of a sudden it hit me on Sunday. I was just weeping in church. And of course they were concerned, but I told them, I said, do you have any idea what's going on in this culture? I mean, it's now cool in Hollywood to worship Satan. I mean, it's all over the internet. People don't understand our culture is degrading. When you compare it, she does, and I've been posting. I did the opposite. I took my Facebook down. I'm trying to cut this down, and Steve said to do it. And I decided, no, if I'm going to be on a red list, I'm going to be on it, but I'm going to go out with a bang. And I've been put my Facebook back up, posting your stuff, anything Aaron Russo, when he talks about the women's movement, everything, anything to educate. Just posting everything up there. Her 4-part series on the Vendée, because I thought it was very, very educational, comparing the two cultures and where we're at today. And if you don't think that we could, disintegrate into that state of anarchy or whatever, and the types of atrocities that have been committed when these Marxists take over, it's quite possible when you look at our society, and it makes my heart break. And of course, the Bible, the thing that comes, I keep getting drawn to, because, to play your zone, as you say, and I keep coming up with Jeremiah when he was telling them, before you come here before my house that you call by my name, and you for fast, your sins, and they did their sacrifice. But and you do this in my name, and you worship idols, and just the whole speech that Jeremiah does is pretty indicative of what we're looking at. Going to church in the name of Jesus, for the love of God, and for the love of God, if we don't stand up as Christians and quit scattering like little cockroaches and saying, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that because, oops, I may say something wrong. I may hurt somebody's feelings." We better start hurting feelings. And I don't mean this like going out and doing something violent. I mean actually standing up and saying, we are not going to take this. Like when you lost it about Mickey Weinstein, that was the best thing. I was like, yes, finally somebody feels the way I do. But that's how I'm feeling. It's like if we don't, and I'm a new Christian, and I'm walking in going, come on, what is going on? We've got to stand up and say this is wrong. Homosexual marriage is wrong. And no, you can't shut down a business because somebody doesn't want to rent to do sodomite. And no, you're not going to make people, you can't do this. No. It's wrong.
It is wrong, and they can't, but they are.
But it's wrong. And where are the churches? Where are the pastors? We've got to speak out. If they were telling these people to store food and let's help each other, and let's be like in Acts, because that's what it's going to have to be like. If those apostles had been nice, and I'm quoting Anne, if the apostles had been nice, Christianity would had never gotten off the ground. They weren't mean, but they weren't nice. Like, oh, I can't offend somebody. I may say something wrong. No.
We're not supposed to conform.
God. Do I obey you or do I obey God? Do we obey Obama and his regime or do we obey God? And that's kind of where I'm at with the whole thing. It's like we all
obey ourselves or do we obey God? That is a big one.
We obey God first. God comes first and his laws. And killing innocent babies. I formed you in your mother's womb and consecrated you. It's in Jeremiah. It's so simple. And, I just don't get it. I'm at my wit's end, but that's where I'm at. I'm just going gulp. I'm going to start this. I'm going to figure out how to get a YouTube going, and I am just going to throw it out there.
This is why,
what you think of me.
Donna, this is why we love. This is why we love you. Seriously, I'm going to tell you. This is why we love you. You're absolutely fantastic. Your passion, your passion as a Christian, your passion with respect to the ideology of what this country once was. You're not holding anything back. You're righteously indignant, or you're righteously upset about the what's going on here. And
I'll help you get your YouTube set up.
I consider myself a baby Christian. I'm still learning, but I'm reading and I'm seeing, and the more I pray and the more I ask the Holy Spirit to come into me, the more I see, and then the more I see, I'm like going, wait a minute, something's not right here. It's just, and then I become angry. Like when Jesus went in there and drove them all out. I mean, I'm just like, that's righteous. That's, no. Wrong is not right. 2 and 2 do equal 4. And if you're going to be a Christian, we're going to be Christians. I don't, that's just, I know I'm not making sense. I'm not as eloquent in my speech. I wish I had your gift, Doug, but no, I'm going gulp. I'm going to figure out the YouTube thing. But God bless you guys. Keep doing what you do. I'm going to start doing my thing, and if they want to wake up, fine. If they don't, well, God bless them and watch over them. That's all I can say. And
Donald, okay, then let us know when you do this, because we'll back you 100% as well. We'll promote what you do.
I'd love to be able to do a radio thing, but I know, actually, I've had owned businesses, but I know nothing about it. I saw that you can do blog talk, but I don't. I guess I should email you, maybe give you my email address or something, because I want to get a list of what kind of stuff do I need if I'm going to do this little radio station. Just like once a week or something. I'm going to do something, and I'm not done. I told my guy that does my house, he's a Christian, and I said, oh, you know that fascia around there? He goes, yeah. He goes, what are you going to do? I said, we are going to get John 3:16, and we're going to do the whole fascia. He goes, you're serious? I said, I am going to proclaim this house as Christian from the rooftop. We're doing it.
Oh, boy.
He goes, okay, Donna. He goes, are you sure? I said, I am positive. We're going to do it. And I've got cement out there. We're going to start doing that, too. So he's just going, okay. But I told you I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I'll take pictures and send them to you when I do it.
And then, of course, we'll follow up on the lawsuits that follow, saying that you can't have this on your own house by the people who are offended by such radical talk as John 3:16. We
really?
love you, Don.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Because this is my property, and we'll see.
Well, again, this is why we love you. We love Spunk, and you've got it. So God bless you. Thank you so much.
I may be a little Christian, and I am maybe new, but I am going to do this. I'm reading that Bible, and I'm talking to the Holy Spirit, and that's who I listen to. So God bless you guys. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to go golf.
Donna, you have a great weekend.
Have a great evening.
God bless you.
Thanks.
God bless you guys. Bye.
How can we go gold? Can we go gold if we have a station or no? Probably not.
Go gold.
Gold. It probably wouldn't. Just kind of go off the grid. Yet keep a radio station.
Oh, okay.
Probably wouldn't work too well.
Not sure. Right. We got another call. We're going to go to Bill. Bill, I think is a first-time caller.
Yes, sir. How you gentlemen doing?
Fantastic. What's on your mind?
Well, you got to love the zeal of the newborns. What was on my mind is I was watching a program, and the Lord came to me, and He showed me on a program that there was bubbles coming up out of the Louisiana swamp. I'm kind of getting off topic here a little bit, but I'll be brief with the time. In those bubbles came out butane and methane and propane gas. Supposedly there's 24 billion barrels of butane down in the ground in the salt caverns of Louisiana. And Assumption Parish. And I was kind of wondering if y'all had any information on that kind of deal, or something you guys could send me.
The Bayou sinkhole. I saw, and I've been following this, but I'm not a scientist. I know we talked with Stan Deo about this, and we're going to have to get him back on because we've seen such an influx of sinkholes this last month since the last time we had him on. But to my knowledge, the sinkhole is still growing. It is filled with water and oil right now, and it's over a mile wide. And we are seeing other sinkholes popping up all across the United States, swallowing homes. There's a place in California right now that neighborhoods are being swallowed up. And there's not only methane being released in the sinkhole at the Bayou Canyon in Louisiana, but in the Arctic. There's huge amounts of methane being released. Our atmosphere is changing, and the Earth is expanding, from what I've been told. And these are part of the signs of the times.
Yeah, pretty much like contractions of the Lord coming.
Well,
says the Lord that the earth will have contractions or birth pains.
Birth pangs, yes, indeed. But I think the scientific fact that the Earth is expanding, actually, the actual physical planet that is expanding, which is causing a lot of these anomalies.
And don't forget the little bit of crust that makes up the Earth, the real thin layer that we live on, is always moving too. So, but in years past, 100 years, how many times was the word sinkhole making major news headlines? Now,
good point.
How many times in a week are we seeing that?
The one down in Louisiana is actually caused from a salt dome collapse, where they were drilling and testing for the oil and crude down at the bottom, and they punctured it, and then fresh water is getting into it, and when you have salt with fresh water, it dissolves, and that's why that sinkhole keeps continuing to build. But with 24 million barrels of butane and stuff like that down there, they say it's equivalent to 100 Hiroshima bombs or something like that. And not too far away in Louisiana, off the coast, there is an ancient volcano, which where the sinkhole's at has actually been more seismic activity and all this that I've been hearing. And I was just kind of wondering, the government was supposed to put out some reports and you know they're going to, you know, kind of not be fully knows to tell the truth, I should say.
Well, I think those reports will be 100% accurate and correct. No, yeah, we know what you're saying, and yeah, it is something people, especially in areas prone to sinkholes, and I guess everywhere now is prone to sinkholes, are swallowing people up alive in China and the U.S. We are witnessing changes that in areas where we've never seen activity like this before. The intensity and the people who are very in tune with the Lord that they're feeling, the earth is going through this. We're seeing it manifest in the physical.
And Steve Quayle, Steve Quayle talks about, I can never get this correct, the Cumbiviart, I don't know, some island chain in the Caribbean that's actually losing, it's falling into the ocean, the Atlantic.
Not the Canary Islands?
No. You know what? If I try to pronounce it, I'll screw it up. But it's boy, I wish I had Steve on the phone right now. Cumbivirat or something like that. I don't know, but it's an island chain down there where, if it does go into the ocean, it would cause a tsunami that could take out the entire East Coast. I think it's maybe on the periphery of the Canary Islands or in that general vicinity. But caller, you make a good point. Are we seeing the earth changes as discussed in the Bible in prophetic revelations?
Well, let me tell you this:
I believe the stage is being set for it.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been told to watch the New Madrid, watch the oceans, and I've been watching the sky, and what's going on up there certainly is not being talked about on any news channel I've watched or listened to. It's happening everywhere. The earth, the atmosphere, the universe, changes are all around us, and they're indicative of one thing, in my opinion, and that is the coming of our Lord and Savior Jesus, letting us know it's not too far off.
Yeah, I believe that as well. But I just wanted to make mention of it and see if some people would do some research and see if they come up with what I'm coming up with, and see if the new reports show anything new about the Louisiana sinkhole, or dome collapse, as I call it. And
we're going to keep our eyes on that. We're going to have
April 10th.
Okay.
There was all activity around that sinkhole had ceased, and 350 mandatory evacuations had been done.
Yeah, the mandatory evacuations, yeah. We see those, yeah, and I would.
Wait a minute, 310,000? Is that
no 350?
350.
50. Okay, somewhere I just threw 1,000 in there. Okay.
Hey, Bill, we're gonna have to let you go. We only got 2 minutes left of the show. I know it was your first time calling. I want to thank you for listening and participating in this show, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
You are the man. Thank you so much for that information. God bless, man.
All right, gentlemen, grace and peace, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, my friend.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Can I sneak in something here, Joe? Joe, can I sneak in something? Gene,
absolutely not.
All right.
No,
well,
go ahead.
Gene sent this to me. We were talking about democracy and republic, how the Illuminati are changing it, and she sent this. Gene sent this to me. I want to thank you, Gene. My contention is that there's been a concerted effort over time to move us from a republic to a democracy. And if you think about this, I got to tell you, if you think about this, it's an interesting concept. To redefine the term as we move through this process, this is why you saw the term democracy on the website. Joe, and we hear various people speak of our republic as democracy.
90 seconds.
If one person starts to use the term, it becomes acceptable via political correctness. And the bottom line here is when the poll numbers are revealed, or polls are introduced to move us from a republic to a democracy. What are the polls? Well, according to Gene, I've not seen a well-constructed poll. Questions are loaded. Questions are misleading. Questions use twisted logic. offering a hint here. Try diagram.
60 seconds.
When the poll numbers are revealed, what happens with these poll numbers? Legislators say we need gun control, for example, referring to the poll numbers. Each and every time this happens, and think about this in closing, we move toward the communist/Illuminati end goal of making America a true democracy. And that would be a stepping stone for the socialism and ultimate absorption into the one world order. And I want to thank Gene for that assessment. Interesting assessment if you think about it very carefully.
I want to thank each and every one of you for listening tonight, and we will be back next week at the same time, 8 p.m. on Monday. And this weekend we're going to put in some work in the studio. Hopefully we can get some YouTubes done and some other things accomplished that we need to launch our new show, the fourth hour. But
after my going goal today. Yes, God bless all of you.
Have a great night. Stay safe. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for using